Bona tarda. Em sentiu bé, no? Okay, so bona tarda a tots I totes. Welcome you. Well, it's an honor. My name is Georgina Sorrosal. I'm from the Medical Association of Barcelona. I will start, right? So I want to tell you that it's an honor to welcome you to this first Pediatric Investment Forum on behalf of MedAngels and the Barcelona Medical Association. Today, we celebrate something truly special, the collaboration of three organizations, MedAngels, i4Kids from Hospital Sant Joan de Déu, and Ship to Be Ventures, who have joined forces to make this forum possible. In fact, all started in Riga, but Arnau will tell you more about that in a minute. This alliance reflects our shared conviction that major challenges in pediatric health can only be addressed through collaboration, combining talent, knowledge, and resources. Each organizing entity brings a complementary perspective, from the medical expertise and investment drive of MedAngels to the leadership in pediatric innovation of i4Kids and the potential to connect transformative projects with impact funding represented by Ship to Be Ventures. But first, allow me to share a few words about MedAngels. MedAngels has been launched a few months ago, and it's a pioneering network of medical doctors and healthcare professionals promoted by the Barcelona Medical Association. They are committed to support innovation in the health sector through investment. Our network is primarily composed of physicians with an interest in investing in early-stage startups that are developing highly innovative projects. By joining MedAngels, members contribute not only financial resources, but also clinical expertise, helping young companies bring medical innovations to market more quickly and efficiently. One of the unique aspects of MedAngels is its focus on the collaborative investment. So it means that members invest together, supported and guided by the Medical Association's Innovation and Entrepreneurship area, which I represent here. Investments can start from relatively small amounts, making participation accessible to a wide range of professionals, and we are looking for companies seeking investment in pre-seed and seed stage as the ones you will see today. At the same time, MedAngels Network wishes to co-invest with other business angels networks that are already operating in our ecosystem, and even with other type of investors investing in these early stages. MedAngels was created to accelerate the advancement of medical entrepreneurship in Catalonia and beyond, ensuring that promising innovations reach patients and the market as swiftly as possible. Our goal is to foster a vibrant community where medical expertise and entrepreneurial spirit come together to drive meaningful change in healthcare. So together today with our partners, i4Kids and Ship to Be Ventures, we have designed this event to be a space for connection, learning, and opportunity generation. We wish today healthcare professionals, investors, entrepreneurs, and organizations engage in dialogue. You can share ideas and establish partnerships that drive transformation in the pediatric sector. Throughout today's evening, you will hear from leading experts, participate in discussions about child-focused investment, and discover startups that aim to revolutionize the sector. So we encourage you to make the most of this event, to inspire and collaborate, because only by working together we will achieve a healthier future for children. So on behalf of the three organizing entities, I thank you for your presence and commitment today, and may this forum be the beginning of new collaborations and great achievements in pediatric innovation. So welcome and enjoy the forum. And now Arnau will also address you some words.
Thank you. Thank you, Georgina. And I would like to thank you all for being here. It's been curated through a year, and we are very excited to see the full room and this happening already. So I have just to say three things. First, why we are here and why i4Kids was born. Second, I would like to explain a little bit briefly why and how this was built and where the idea came. And finally, just leave room to the next topics. So first, I would like to thank Montana and Marc especially, and Georgina from MedAngels to have gone through this journey this year together. I think it's been amazing to work together to make it happen. And also to Tech Barcelona, who is the host of this very nice old building in the center of Barcelona, that afterwards you will have the opportunity to also enjoy the terrace that it have, if also weather allows. So why we are here today and why i4Kids also was born. Okay, so, okay. So we're here because we have a big challenge in our society. Nowadays, there's a big lack of products into the market. I think all of the here presents know that, and that's why we are here. But nowadays, still there's 50% of medicines that are prescribed off-level. That means that have not been designed and tested for pediatrics. Only 40% of the annual approved by the FDA and the EMA medical devices have a pediatric indication. And when we look into the investment, VC investment in pediatrics only counts for 1.6% of the general VC investment. So as you see, it's very difficult to improve those numbers with this amount of investment, especially if we want to get into the patient at the end. And that's why we are here. But this situation gets even worse when we go to rare diseases. You know that rare diseases affect 80%, have a genetic origin and affect children. That means that starts at the pediatric ages. Those patients will probably have struggles in having a diagnosis, as the mean time that they will have to get a diagnosis, it's 5 years. 5 years as a mean. Also, 95% of them will never have a treatment nowadays. 95% will never have a treatment. And one of the things that it's, I think, most impressive is that nowadays we have more than 200 unmarketed treatments approved, but without interest from a commercial entity to bring those treatments to the patients. So imagine being a father or a mother, probably there's some in the audience, that have been struggling 5 years to get a diagnosis. Once you have the diagnosis of your kid, you know that there's a treatment and nobody is providing your treatment. So that's the big burden that we have nowadays in pediatrics and in rare diseases in our society. And it's some of the patients that have more activity generated for the percentage that they are. So in this situation, we have two things to do. We can accept the situation, as always said by Manuel del Castillo, that's our CEO, and also taking words from Angela Davis, accept the things we cannot change, or change the things that we cannot accept. And I think that in pediatrics and rare diseases, we are in this situation. And in this situation, innovation is not a choice, but a need. So I think that that's what makes today's so important and so relevant. Because here in the audience, we get together startup companies, hospitals from around Europe and around the world, and investors to try to make this paradigm change that we need and move to a future where every child and every woman have access to the best treatment possible. So that's also why I4Kids was born, to try to change this and foster a collaborative environment with different entities, hospitals, and all the quintuple helix to try to bring solutions into the market for pediatrics and maternity health, and do it together also with everyone in the room possible, because I think that's a global challenge that we all have to foster and work together to change. And now I think it's possible. There's generating just momentum that have been generated, and we are seeing more and more investors, more and more startups that are being built in this environment. So I think we are in a good moment, in a good momentum to make the change happen. We need all the efforts on that. So why this crazy idea of creating a pediatric investment forum? Why it was created and when it was created? So it all started in Riga, and thank you for the colleagues in Riga from the i4Kids Hub, because they created the perfect environment last year. Just 1 year from now, we met all in Riga to do the pediatric innovation day there. And after a full day of knowledge sharing, challenges sharing, and knowing all these struggles that we are facing in terms of investment, we were with a beer in our hands with Marc talking. Well, we will say one now. And we decided that something was needed. So we decided to try to find another crazy person that could have experience in building investment forums. And we sent a WhatsApp message to Georgina. We thought in her directly. Hey, what about if in 1 year we will have the Pediatric Innovation Day in Barcelona? Why don't we create the day before a pediatric investment forum? So it all started in Riga. MedAngels decided to jump in to help and lead us on the process of creating a pediatric investment forum, and we are really, really very happy to see you all here and to be able today to have this first edition of the Pediatric Investment Forum. So thank you all for being here, and I hope you enjoy the night and talk to all the people that you have around, because I think very impressive people we have here today. Thank you. Now, Marc.
Okay. Okay, we still have the audio of that WhatsApp, but we will not disclose the audio. Okay, so I'm super happy to be here today. Thank you, Arnau. Thank you, Georgina, for making this happen. And thank you all for coming. Okay, so Montana is the first fund in Europe that is 100% focused in children's health. As we like to say with Maite, we don't invest in adults. Sorry, we invest in children. Okay, and the name of Montana is nothing to do with Hannah Montana or Tony Montana or the state of Montana. If you want to know, you have to talk with us, and we will tell you. Okay, but definitely not Tony Montana. So 2 years ago, we were here, most of you as well, some of you as well, and we decided to build a fund 100% focused in children's health. And today we have the fund here, okay, and we are ready to invest. But in the last 2 years, we have been kind of, instead of doing a venture building of a company, we have been doing a venture building of a fund, okay? And I would like to share, because we are here in the pediatric ecosystem, 3 lessons that we learned, okay, on the way. The first one, and probably the most important one, is that you need to build a team, okay? Many LPs has been told me that, Marc, you don't even qualify for a summer internship in a proper VC firm, okay? So, and that's true. So that's, and when you are facing that challenge, you at least you can do one thing, is try to partner with the best. And that's what we have been doing. We are very lucky to partner with Ship2B Ventures on this journey, as well with i4Kids and all the hospitals that they are providing us all the deal flow, okay? So partnering with the best when you are trying to build something completely new is a must. The second one is how you change the narrative, okay? How you, build your investment thesis. Obviously, what Arnau was telling to you is super important, okay? There are millions of children that they require an urgent treatment, diagnosis, quality of life, but it's more than that, and we learned that in the last 2 years, okay? So I will give you one data that is, the Nobel Prize Hetman says that for each euro that we invest in a child, the return of investment is between 7 to 10 euros as an adult, okay? So as a society, we are facing a population that is aging more and more. Also, we know by the news and by our sources that the budget in many other aspects in our society is going to be increased. So the healthcare ecosystem, as we know in Europe, has to change, obviously. And prevention is one area that is not going to be only a need, but as well an opportunity in the coming 15 years. And when you talk about prevention, investing into children's health, it's the best opportunity that you have, because you are still on time, because 80% of adult health is set before 18. Okay, so if we are talking serious about preventive medicine, you have to invest in children's health. And the third one, lesson we learned in the process, is that in some way you need to build time. It's a strange concept, okay? You need to allocate time, because you need to first advocate, because this is the first investment thesis in Europe that is 100% focused on children. You need to educate LPs. You need to go through the bureaucracy. So resilience is super important. And that's been part of our journey in the last 2 years. So today we are thinking forward, and the next for us is the next 3 years, 4 years, we are going to be investing between 13 to 15 companies. We are a tech transfer fund. We are a company creation fund. For us, pre-seed and seed is the must, okay? That's where we enjoy also investing. So please, the projects that they are here today, the projects that you can connect, let us know about us, because we are looking for the best projects in Spain, in Europe, to invest in the next 3-4 years. And always with the purpose to co-create an ecosystem, a children's ecosystem, and that's precisely the topic of the table. So I'm going to invite Maite, Gemma, Joan to go into stage, and then we can proceed with the table. Okay. Before introducing each other, I will set a bit the tone, okay, with more data on this. Some of them have been already shared by Arnau, but just let you know that that's the data that put us running was this only 1.6% of venture capital in life science, in healthcare, invested into pediatric innovation, okay? It's been reported by the UK that 25% of children was born in 2003, 2004. Before 16, they were diagnosed with a chronic disease, 25%. 20% of young people has a mental disorder, 20%. In the last 15 years, the obesity levels has been increased from 8% to 20%. And as Arnau was suggesting, 75% of rare diseases are pediatric indications. Only 5% of them has an approved treatment, okay? But these are individual impacts, okay? And obviously, we have a challenge to find solutions for each of them, no? But there's also the concept in children's of promoting a systemic change, okay? Yesterday, at Chip2B, we were organizing our Impact Forum, and together with a great foundation called Educo, Guiomar, I think, is here today with us, and as well with the Children's, a systemic platform. Pilar is here as well today. We were debating and we were finding a systemic solution for kids 0 to 3 years old that they are affected by violence. Understanding violence in a very bold, holistic way, okay? And you cannot imagine the number of potential projects and solutions that were emerging during the day, okay? So we need to understand children's not only from an impact perspective, okay, let's cure childhood cancer, but also as a systemic change, together collaborating with different type of stakeholders of the ecosystem, okay? So today here you will see different types of potential investors across the ecosystem, all of them focus in pediatrics, okay? And well, first, I would like to thank you, all of you, and also Mauricio to be here. And maybe we can start probably with you, Maite? Yeah, you can start. Yeah, you can. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. When we launched, or when we started to work to launch Montana 2 years ago, I never imagined that this day comes. What means for us children lens? We are impact investors. That means that when we have to take a decision about what kind of investments to do, we put always people on the center of our decisions. In the case of Montana, or in the case of invest in children's healthcare, what we do is to put the children on the center, the needs of the children with chronic disease in the center of our investment thesis. And what that means? This means that we have to go beyond treatment or diagnosis. That because, of course, what you have to do first is try to prevent or make early detection, and then we have to treat the disease. But what happened after this? What is about, or what happened with the social inclusion of these children, or the difficulties that these children have with the relationship in the schools and the rest of the society? We need to take into account also. And that's why when we designed the investment thesis of Montana, we introduced in this kind of challenge there. And the main goal or the main issue or difference among Montana as a systemic impact fund focused on children and other kind of healthcare funds is that we want to invest not only in solutions or startup that goes to or increase the early detection or treatments. We also we want also to invest in projects, startups that help in how these children after these treatments could improve the social inclusions. Or for example, we also want to invest in projects that goes to the school and help the school to include these children in the day by day.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a representative of ICF, the Public Promotion Bank, and as Marc says, the long time it's necessary just to know and how understand this new opportunity that Montana takes to the market, to the investment world. And ICF, we really work with a large vision, a long-term vision, and in our investment policy, life science has been a very priority investment, and we really have a lot of investment in health, and for itself, it has impact this kind of investment, But because the rules in investment has changed, has developed an impact rules, we just introduce and put focus on this kind of projects that, apart from the economic return, make a focus on all the impact and social impact, And in this case, for us, Montana represents all this, and of course, just make us a focus on child, on all the problematic about child, because some other funds, of course, make any investments in child, but not specific as Montana. That is the first fund that really invests on that. For us, to invest in impact is very important because, and especially invest in child health, because it's not just for impact, it's just for future, and it's very strategic for a country.
Thank you, Gemma. And Joan, before saying that, I would like to say that we are all here for you, actually, because a few years before, when we started about this idea of as we do many times in Europe, we see what the Americans are doing, and then we saw that what Joan was starting to do as well in the US, and for us you have been an example to follow, and thank you for visiting us in person to Barcelona. And yeah,
you're very kind. But thank you for having me. It's really exciting to be here. I'm especially excited by the progress you're making with Montana. So I've been investing in children's health for the last decade. I run a fund that's out of a foundation. and more recently we spun a for-profit fund out of that. It's been a fascinating but very long and hard journey. So I'm very excited to have another fund in the space, in the journey with us. And I expect in a decade there are going to be many, many more funds. It's an exciting area. I'll go back to a couple points you were making and thinking, like, yes, we're investing in children, but it is in so many ways, this is a long-term story for the individuals and generationally for humanity. We're really thinking about this as, yes, it's kids and we are investing early in life, but we are also investing in the adults of tomorrow. And it's funny, I'll tell a quick story around many years ago when one of my kids was on a basketball team and the coach brought the parents together really to try to mostly tell us to be quiet and not say anything while he was coaching. But he used this line that stuck with me. And he says, hey, you know, I'm not here to help you raise your children, but I am here to help you raise adults. And that has always stuck with me as I've become a pediatric investor. You know, the reason we invest in them is to create long, healthy, happy lives for people who want them to be productive. Some of the data that I see that reflects how we're doing a very poor job of that, and forgive me, it'll be US-centric, but one I point to that speaks to people who might be sympathetic to children but maybe don't see the importance. I use data from the US military. So the US military, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, everyone, they identified, the most recent survey that I've seen was 2020. They said that 77% of Americans ages 17 to 24, so just coming out of that pediatric period, 77% of them are unfit for military service without a medical waiver. That's about 25% obesity, another 25% other chronic conditions, 25% mental health, and the other 25% are really complex care patients that have a lot of those things, plus maybe like some things like drug abuse and such in there too. Those are embarrassing numbers, and I've heard of other countries saying that they have some similar things happening in their countries, again, around some of the data that you were sharing. We are not setting the citizens of the world, of our countries, up for great success to be productive contributors to society, to pay taxes, to defend our country, to support us when we're old, all of those things. If we're not investing there, we're hurting ourselves so much. So the impact side of this is important, but it is a fundamental part of who we are, and to invest in it, there is an imperative. But there are great gains to be had. There are tremendous benefits. So we'll get there. And I'm really excited about, again, a little bit of momentum and traction, and it'll all come together. So I'm super excited about what you're doing here.
Thank you, John. I will try to connect with Mauricio, okay? Mauricio, can you hear us?
Hello.
Okay, so if you want to introduce yourself and your organization.
Sure. Just to say, I don't have visibility of the room or any audio either, apart from you, Marc.
Okay, we know.
Okay. So, hi, everyone. I'm Mauricio Preciado-Awad from Save the Children Global Ventures. I lead the work on Blended Innovative Finance here. Pleasure to meet you all.
Sorry?
Could you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Go ahead.
Right. I was saying, hi, everyone. I'm Mauricio Preciado-Awad. I lead the work on Blended and Innovative Finance at Save the Children Global Ventures. Pleasure to meet you all.
I have a question for you. Okay, maybe we should start with that. So if you can explain to us what is the mission of Save the Children Ventures for the next year, and as well if you can explain some examples of catalytic impact capital.
Marc, you went on mute.
No, he was. So if you can explain as well a catalytic capital example.
Absolutely. And I think the best way that I can summarize why we're so interested on this space of children's investment, and I hope everyone can hear me okay. If I ask everyone in the room to think about what is the most expensive thing they have ever bought, and then if I also ask them to think, if you think about how much money you make a month, and of that money that you make every month, how much you are spending on different items. I'm going to take a guess, but the majority of you would have said that the most expensive thing you have ever bought is a house, and that your monthly outgoings expenditure is probably around housing, childcare, healthcare, education. And people's decisions around homes tend to depend on their children, right? And what is the benefit of the children. So our personal investment decisions tend to be centered around our children. Our personal expenditure decisions as well. And I will venture to say that's the case for the majority of the people in the world with assets and as well. So at a personal level, when you look at that, and then you compare the same people and the same assets at a market level, children somehow completely disappear from the market as a concept. And that's what we think, that we need to address, that disconnect between how we are making decisions personally and how people care a lot about children when they're making investment decisions, but that the markets are not reflecting that. And I'm going to talk about a specific catalytic investment that we've done in this space. There is a medical technology company in Uganda called OHO. They have a neonatal unit that is solar powered. It's an incubator. It is crucial to use this sort of technology in this part of Africa because of the lack of stable access to electricity and supply. And their device is proven to work quite well. However, they were approaching what is classically called the valley of death. They had a prototype that was working, but they had an unclear pathway to get approval for regulators. They had limited evidence beyond the immediate one that they have. And they didn't have an investor that was willing to back them throughout this period when they came out at the other side. They had the investors and grantors that were willing to help them develop the prototype and the first examples. And they could see at the other side of proving the case that there will be investors willing to invest in the company, but no one in the middle. And that's where we came in and played that role of providing catalytic capital with a return, but at a concessional level, to be able to tie them from that to the next. And I think that's an example of that.
Thank you. We did our best, okay? Thank you very much. So let me move now to Maite, okay? So I have a question for you about, so yesterday, actually, you announced your second Be Social fund, okay? And actually, you have already before with your other funds invested in a biotech company associated to childhood cancer. That's how we met, called Therapeutics. Why to launch a separate fund dedicated to children's health when you can incorporate that into your investment thesis in one of your other social impact funds?
Okay, before answer the questions, I would like to ask to the audience, what do you think about to launch a specific fund in children's healthcare Do you think that it's a good idea? Or you think that the best will be to integrate this kind of investments in another healthcare fund? Okay, raise your hands, the people who think that it's a good idea to launch a specific fund for children. Wow. Yeah, I will give you 3 reasons. For me, these 3 reasons are enough to justify it. The first one is focus. I love the book by Daniel Goleman that it's called Focus. And he say, where you put your focus, you put your energy. If we launch a specific fund focused on healthcare in children, that means that you put your focus and you have to put your energy on this challenge. Launch Montana help us to put our energy to try to understand the main problems or challenges around children's healthcare and try to go deeper to understand the roots of this challenge. We develop a specific thesis and we take into account the real needs that these children have, and this is because we focus on that. Another issue is that these allow to align the interests among investors, investment team, and also the entrepreneurs of the portfolio. Because all the stakeholders around Montana and this fund are focused on increase the quality of life of children. And for us, this is one of the main reasons. The second one is specialization. Because having a specific healthcare fund in children means try to attract the best talent with experience not only in healthcare, also in children, and align the interest or incentive of this investment team with the impact of the fund. In our case, as an impact investors or carry, this variable remuneration that the management team or investment team have are linked 100% with the impact of the fund. If we have a specific fund in children's health, we have to develop impact KPIs linked to the children and the impact of each investment in the quality of life of children. That means that we align, we have a specific and specialized team with a direct incentive to work for improve the quality of life of children. And the third reason is awareness. Okay, Launch Montana means put the focus on the children or the challenge that children have, and this help to make more visible the gap that we have in the financial sector, but also in the innovative ecosystem. We need to put on the table that there are a lot of needs in terms of children that we need to invest. We need to analyze, we need to investigate or make research, more research about children's health and more innovation about children's health. And Montana, I think that helps to put focus on children's needs and children's solutions, help to align the interests between the people who are working in the fund, but also with the investors. And finally, we put on the table and we make more visible and we create more awareness about the needs to invest more on that.
Thank you, Maite. Gemma, if you want to comment to us about public-private partnerships in terms of funding, funds of funds, and as well on potential co-investment opportunities directly into life science companies, particularly in our region, because here also today there are many also startups in the field. So if you want to comment on that, please. Yeah, thank you.
Of course, we just make direct investment and investment in funds of funds. And we select the best managers that could, in this case, that could act in children health needs. And of course, they try to improve all this kind of children problem, in the health problem, rare diseases, the mental health. And we also co-invest when specialized managers takes the analysis and just present us the opportunity, we could co-invest with them. And it's for that we have created a new program that is Catalunya lidera Transferència Salut, because we know that in Catalonia there is a lot of large research, a lot of research centers with a lot of investigation, but sometimes there is a need just for going to the research to the market, And this program wants to fund the phases in research, the experiment killer, just to test the idea, just to have evidence and answer key questions about the projects. And when this is resolved, we think that it's more easier that the private investment comes to the projects. Of course, this is not possible without the specialized managers like Montana, that really they could indicate which is the work that the researchers have to do. But we are very proud to have this new product, that is with 60 million in 2 years, just to help all the investors in Catalonia, because it's necessary that all this research goes to the market. This is our main point. And of course, the co-investment is not only in research. We co-invest in companies that they are with the product tested and is going to the market. And it's for that we have different products found. ICF Venture Tech, that is in different areas, not only medical, but of course there are some medical. We could finance a proof of concept for different from different kinds of technical investigation. But of course we are very excited with this new product that is just is directly to the health sector, and for us is the best thing at the moment, that the public investment act as a catalyst, because doing that we think that the risk and it's something that attracts investment from private, that is very necessary in all these kind of projects, not only public has to push, and we think that with this kind of product we can push and just to attract a new investment and make this multiplier effect that is necessary in research.
Yeah, and this is actually excellent news for us as well, because our fund is focused obviously from here, from Catalonia, from Spain, but we are the first one in Europe, and our idea is not only to invest here, but to bring projects across Europe to be built and here and being able to co-invest with local public investors willing to bring and retain talent in Barcelona, in Catalonia. It's a key catalytic driver. So it's not Mauricio. So because normally, and I experienced that as a biotech entrepreneur, the idea was always to launch the companies here and then try to go to the US, to raise more money. And I would like to know your opinion, Joan, about how is the dynamics, the market, the vision for the next years in generally in the US and particularly in healthcare, and how we can funds with the same investment thesis, syndicate, co-invest, and do things together. So,
how long do we have? I think everyone is aware it's a really tricky time in healthcare and life sciences globally. Ventures, it's been a bit of a tough period. That's okay. I think actually the pediatric side comes through it. It's always been a little challenging there, and the challenges continue, but we're really not getting knocked down in the way that a lot of the sectors that were maybe high flying a few years ago have been knocked down. But healthcare in the US right now, which as a go-to market, it is challenging. We are facing funding challenges out of public funding with a lot of our NIH funding drying up, and that presents a serious challenge. FDA, although I'm not seeing real changes around things getting through it. There's a lot of concern that things are slowing down. They certainly slowed down in the last month. Longer term, will they slow down because we've lost key people? That is of great concern. My concern around pediatrics is, I think pediatrics has specialist knowledge within the FDA, and they've been an amazing partner. I have only good things to say about the FDA when it comes to pediatrics. But I do worry that some of the best people are leaving, and I know a couple of friends who have left who have been amazing champions for children's health at the FDA. And with them gone, does that mean that there is loss of institutional memory around some of the good things that have been accomplished and the prioritization of pediatrics and really focusing on helping younger companies or even more mature companies who are trying to bring things through the system for approval? FDA has always tried to help. They've helped design trials. How is this going to work? Let's have these conversations so that your process is de-risked. If we lose that, that's a little bit of a danger. So keep an eye on it. And I don't think there's no evidence that has happened yet, but it is a concern. For the stage of companies that we're talking about here, with these young companies, the term Valley of Death came up today. One of the concerns right now for the US, and I think this is to a certain extent globally, is that the Valley of Death is getting wider right now with more early stage funding drying up. And this has always been a positive thing in pediatrics, where there's been a lot of great non-dilutive funding that will bring things through and de-risk it more before you put those first investment dollars in. And we've seen a lot of good investment opportunities there. Concerned that there will be less of that. There will be some, but if there's less, then there will be less pipeline of really good investment ideas coming along. And then on the other end of the Valley of Death, where you're looking for investment capital from venture and other sources, they're very risk averse right now. So where I think, even a year ago, we were seeing everyone say, well, look, we want to see your IND, for a biotech. We want to see your IND. We're not going into preclinical. It has to be clinical. We want to see it. And it's like, no, we want to see some human data. We want to see the phase 1. Now we're starting to see the pushback. It's like, no, we want to see phase 2 or maybe even phase 3, and we'll get in just for that crossover. That's not that helpful to anyone. So there are concerns around that. I do believe these things are cyclical. It will come back. Starting to see some pickup in the public stocks, and if you get some deals in liquidity, interest rates go down, we will get a little more activity. But I'm not going to hide the fact that it's difficult for all of life science and healthcare. The benefit in pediatrics is I do find pediatric companies have advantages in this space. They are incredibly capital efficient, more so than I've seen in other areas. But they always have to get by with less. And so they're very good at it. They don't overstaff. They don't overraise. Their valuations don't pop up too fast, too early. which makes it a little easier to raise capital as you go along. There were a lot of good lessons to take from that. So I'm seeing companies survive at a higher rate in pediatrics. They're moving slowly, but a lot more companies are surviving, and they're positioned to do well going forward. So I do, despite the climate, I have optimism, and we're in and we're watching a lot of companies that, again, if they can get through this tough period in the marketplace, they're positioned to do really well.
Coming from the longevity space, I agree with you that one thing that is super an asset in pediatrics is the resilience of the funders, because most of them, they are doing that because something else happening, not only about making money, not only about ego driver. They are there because basically, for a personal experience, they decided to flip the career and be now a founder of a company or something like that. And that's clearly when things are coming, and you have another job offer or whatever, but you keep the company looks, because it will happen. The company looks nothing is going to happen. So then you have this extra mile that I think is super important in entrepreneurship. Okay.
Joan from Therapeutics is an example.
Correct. Is here. Yes.
Entrepreneurs.
Yes. You have to talk with him. Yeah. So we are on time. I think, no, but maybe if you can comment kind of a final comment to the audience about what do you suggest especially to the startups pitching today or yeah.
Okay, I want to launch a challenge that we have. I am sure that US is a good opportunity for pediatrics and for healthcare projects. But I think that we have to work, all the people that are here, all the ecosystem from Spain and Europe, in make possible that innovations or pediatric innovations that we launch here could scale here and could be implemented also here in the public sector if we want that all these innovations become affordable for all the people. Then I think that also we need to go for a business and also impact issue to US and other countries. But I think that all the people who are now here today, all of us are worried about children's health around the world, but also here in Spain and Europe. Then we need to move and we need to change the rules of the game in the financial sector, innovation ecosystem, and maybe in the public sector to make it possible.
Thank you. You want to address something to the audience?
I totally agree with that. I think these things there's a local aspect that's really important to companies and funders and solutions, but then there's the global piece where with kids, it's a necessity, and the needs of kids are largely similar everywhere. I mean, there are some things, again, if you're in a country with greater socioeconomic challenges, if you're in sub-Saharan Africa, there are some different needs, but most of the developed world, very similar needs with kids. And in pediatrics, we want to be able to create solutions and sell and commercialize them across multiple regions. I think it's really important to think that. The other point I'd encourage, especially any entrepreneurs to think about, is from day one, you've got to be thinking backwards from the patient you're trying to help, and not just one, but patients at scale. How are you going to get there? And there are so many things that have to happen along the journey. And if you're not planning how that's going to look all the way through, and how much money it's going to take, and how much time, and where things can go wrong, and whether you're trying to create a drug, and where's the pushback going to come back from a regulatory body on your trial design, or if you're selling into a hospital, how's it going to fit into workflow? Are the nurses going to use this? Are they going to let it into their the NICU or the hospital ward that they're in? These are these are the real life things that get in the way of people succeeding with their companies, even when you have a great idea and you have something that's meeting an unmet need. So really think through that process early on. You'll change what happens. Nobody gets there following the plan they put together at the beginning, but you need to be thinking about it constantly in order to be able to maneuver through that path, because it's really hard. So think all the way through the journey would be my one piece of advice.
Okay.
Just maybe to add that when a new focus emerged, the market changed, and I hope that with Montana in our ecosystem, the market change and the investors see that there is a big opportunities in pediatric health, and of course we will be here just to make all our support to these initiatives.
We love questions, but we are already 5 minutes late. So we are going to be in a few minutes after the fun stuff that is starting now in the reception, in the cocktail. So we are happy to answer all questions. But for the sake of the timing, maybe we can proceed to the fun part. Okay. Thank you very much, all of them. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So it's a pleasure opening this pitch session. I'm Xavier Santamaria. I'm co-founder of Bioliquid. And basically, first of all, it's been very interesting this session first, but I'd like to know if, well, every year, millions of women face the same problem. They have a question, a dilemma of undergoing invasive risking pregnancy to have a result, of an accurate result, or undergoing with the uncertainty of odds, resulting in thousands of babies born every year with genetical disorders that have an impact in the lifespan of the babies, as you will see. And the truth is that in each milliliter of blood of these pregnant women, there is a few number of fetal cells that have the solution to this dilemma. We have managed to find them. And what we will do is we have turned a simple blood test into a diagnostic test with the accuracy of amniocentesis, but without risk and affordable to everyone. The name of the test is called Elena. It's the name of the first baby we managed to isolate the cells. And as I said, there is over 5 million babies born every year worldwide with a genetical disorder, and that results in around 400 of deaths yearly. Moreover, there's a lot of suffering in the families, as well as a lot of economical burden for the social security systems. And with the new treatments and the treatments that are foreseen, it's foreseen that up to 90 diseases will be soon probably treatable if diagnosed before birth. And here is a very clear example. This is the family. This is the spinal muscular atrophy. So they got pregnant. They had a normal prenatal screening. They had the baby, Annabelle. She started with symptoms 1 month afterwards. She had a very early diagnosis and early treatment. But despite of this, she ended up with a wheelchair and ventilator. Same thing, same case, same mutation. What changes is the time of diagnosis. Her brother Jude, the parents, they knew it. So they did an amniocentesis. She was diagnosed, he was diagnosed, he was referred to a specialized unit, he was treated immediately afterwards, and then she has almost a normal life. That's the impact of having a reliable diagnosis on time. We do have prenatal diagnosis. We do have accurate prenatal diagnosis, but they require from invasive procedures with the risk of losing the pregnancy. On the other hand, we have a screening test also, but they need also confirmation, and there's a gap of time. We're losing a gap of time. So our solution, which is the ELENA project, is a process which is we have developed a molecular protocol which has been patented to isolate the fetal cells, which we know they are present in mother's blood. And these fetal cells, they have intact DNA, not pieces of DNA that is done in the current commercial kits. So we have the whole book, not pages of the book. So that allows us to have a comprehensive diagnosis early, safe in a method which is scalable and also cost efficient, so it's available or it's affordable to most people. Which is the journey? The journey is pretty much the same thing. So patients got a blood test in the first trimester with a buccal swab. Okay, so we have the protocol, we do the cell isolation, and this is the protocol of finding Y cells that we isolated from a mother pregnant with a baby boy. And we had enrichment of up to 14,000 times of the material, genetic material of the baby. And we were able again to sequence the Y chromosome. So after getting the data, these are analyzed with a bioinformatic pipeline, and we have the diagnosis. The market, well, it's a quite established market. It's expected to grow 10% per year till 2032. And in our business plan, we have been focusing mostly in Europe because it's where we plan, at least now, to do the development and approval. And the way we want to monetize it or the way we want to put it into the market is with a B2B model. There are lots of big partners already in the market. So what we want is to have a device together with one of our partners, which is OpenTrons, so that the process is automated, have some kits, which are the main revenue streams, and also an algorithm, which will be developed also with Sequentia. So these are partners we have had for some time. And recently we are partnering, we're about to partner with also Sant Joan de Déu, where we become, hopefully, an associated company. As a competitors, well, there are plenty of tests in the market. You probably know about that. So basically, in order to make a long story short, we have tried to characterize the tests which are in the market. So we call them like the basic, the ones which are test chromosomes, chromosomopathies, advanced, which is chromosomopathies plus microdeletions, and advanced plus, which are the ones which also include monogenic diseases. All of them are diagnoses. Screening tests. So our test will be more diagnostic. So we'll be getting the cells of the baby, getting the DNA, and have a diagnostic prognosis. There are only so far 2 companies which are working with similar approach. The cost is much expensive because the technology is different. Our technology is much more affordable, are much more scalable because we work with transcriptomics, they're working with proteomics. So that gives us some competitive advantages because our test will provide a true diagnostic in an early, safe, and non-invasive way, and having the whole DNA providing a comprehensive genomic diagnosis in a scalable way and resulting in a cost-effective treatment. How we plan to make it to the market? Well, we are now trying to raise a seed round of 1 million, where we want to have the product development, starting clinical validation, and obtain the RUO approval. And then from 2027 to 2029, opening around the round 2 series, a series A of 3 million, just to try to get into the market in the UA. Here is a potential exit, and otherwise there's a plan of a subsequent rate. We have managed to be here, reached to here with our own funds, but also together obtaining competitive grants, local, regional, even national, and European grants, any kind of grants. We have talked to most of the partners in the market. We have had letters of interest of Eurofins, Geekon Genomics, which is a leading company in China. And as a matter of fact, Roche will send us samples to test the technology as well as Thermo Fisher. And that couldn't have been done without a team that has expertise in molecular biology, in clinical translation, and in regulatory, and as well as some advisors clinically, my mentor Hugh Taylor, which is the chair at Yale, and also at terms of economical or the business part. And that's the aim of the company. So basically improving women's health. And that strengthens our commitment so that any child in the future will be able to undergo a proper diagnosis and a proper treatment. We have the science, we have the technology, we do have the team. What we are seeking is a reliable partner to make it together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Xavier. Before fetaLife, so before the second project, we have some minutes for questions, if there are some questions from the audience or from the panel. Someone?
congratulations on the presentation. Can you elaborate a bit more on the exit strategy for investors? So who is potentially a potential buyer for this company? Thank you.
So in the first round, we have approached most of these multinationals. And this is a market where we have all the strategies about screening tests. So the fact of having a test which is different to the main competitors make you just move us one step forward. So one of the potential exit will be Roche, will be Eurofins, will be Icon. So one of the big players in the market that just want to get it done and have the exclusivity either worldwide or in some markets. This is what. When we have talked to most of the multinationals, they find it fine and they tell you, well, we are here for development, not for research. Just finish that and we will be there. So that's I think an opportunity of exit here.
A question there. No.
Thanks, Pablo Prieto, CG Health Ventures. A follow-up question. So your enrichment technology then goes into transcriptomics, and then you have the bioinformatics tool. Both the transcriptomics is, there is several technologies, and the cost is going down. So I would argue that the value is either on the enrichment side or the bioinformatics. Can you expand on that a little bit and what is covered by the patent?
The patent is covered about the enrichment part. The core is the enrichment part, just having purity in the cells. So if you have like above 90%, so an invasive test is Corias villus sampling, and you have 80% of the cells which are from the baby, 20% of the mother, and that's considered diagnostic. We are above this 80% right now. But if you want to have like purity, so the bioinformatics is to filter if there is any not 90, if it's 85% or whatever. Okay, but the core is the enrichment, because then you have the full DNA very enriched. You can sequence depth at lower cost because you don't have much interference. So this is the key. The algorithm is to support the protocol basically, and the patent is covering mostly the transcriptomic part. Thanks. The algorithm will be more industrial secret, let's say.
Good. Yeah. Another question.
I'm with the Type 1 Diabetes Foundation, and I'm mostly familiar with newborn screening. Have you done any pilot studies on the acceptability, feasibility of this test?
Yes. So one of the main questions that arose with this is which diseases should we put and which mutation should we put in the panel. So you can put everything you want, but then you have a lot of noise. So what we agreed with our colleagues also which are in the private diagnostic is just to include panels of mutations that you know what to do if there is something. So it's clear. Action is you have this mutation, it is clear. We can think it in diabetes type 1, yes. So we could do it. But
my question is acceptability from pregnant women or families. What would be the acceptability of running this test? Like
acceptability.
Yes.
We have done a interview to pregnant women about what do they value most, either going 2 weeks earlier the diagnosis, or to have it in 5 days, or to have a turnaround time shorter, or to have a diagnostic test. What they value the most is to have a diagnostic test. They are ready to pay a little bit more to have a diagnostic test with no need of screening, with no need of invasive procedures.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Xavier. So we go for the second project, fetaLife Technologies, and Elisenda Bonet.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity. So did you know that more than 23,000 babies are born every year in Europe before 6 months of gestation? These babies are the smallest and the tiniest ones, and most of them do not survive. Those who survive need to spend long periods of time in the neonatal intensive care units, and even then will have long-term morbidity. What do we mean by long-term morbidity? That some will have different types of cerebral palsy, or will have some hearing disorders, visual impairment, or will require support for eating or breathing, among others. And what's more important is the outcome for these babies, has not improved over the last 20 years. Why? Because the most standard solution, or what we could think as a solution, is to grab a baby that nowadays is born at 24 weeks, keep it in his mother, and just take it out 4 weeks later at 28 weeks. That changes completely the prognosis because the organs have had time to develop. So then you don't have the comorbidities or the mortality. That's not possible, but here is where fetaLife come into play. We are developing a liquid incubator that tries to mimic a maternal womb. So it's a container that can keep a fetus surrounded by liquid and just connect it through the umbilical cord to an extracorporeal system that provides the oxygen, the nutrients, and all the substances that this fetus requires to survive and to grow naturally. And we are not the only ones who are doing this. There's 2 other groups in the world. We are the only ones who are doing experimental research in Europe. And none of us, not even the Americans or the Japanese and Australian consortium, have tried ever in humans. Even if there are 2 more groups, our system has a distinctive value. We think that our system has a better applicability, first, because you don't need to do any infrastructure works in the hospital, because we have a system that has the same size as a standard incubator, and it has some features that are safer than the other ones. We have this protected by patents, and also during all the development process, we've considered, and we're still considering, all the regulatory roadmap. So we don't have to do any step back to bring it to the clinical practice. And this is not just science fiction. You can see this in reality, and this is how our minimum viable product looks like in our experimental setting. You can see here 2 liquid incubators, and within these containers that we call amnioshells, that's where you can see a fetus with the umbilical cord beating, surrounded by liquid, and with a completely non-invasive system, but highly technological one. This red thing here, it's nothing invasive, it's just a cap to avoid a spillage or leaking from the liquid. And we've had fetuses in this system for more than 20 days. And after that, we also had fetuses that after using this device has been born and do not have any type of neurodevelopmental problem. Of course, they are ships, they cannot write or read, but we've done some tests and they are perfectly fine. And this is possible because we have a really experienced team. We were a spin-off from Hospital Clínic, Hospital Sant Joan de Déu, and University of Barcelona, and we come from one of the top 5 research centers in fetal medicine. In fact, part of the team who helped having these results also has experience in private companies, because we've always seen this project as something that needs to happen into reality and not just a research project. And how are we thinking to bring this into reality? So the addressable market that we think that potentially can benefit from our solution is more than 0.6 billion cases per year. That translates to more than 36 billion euros per year. That falls within the standard market for neonatal care. And we believe that our proposed model is B2B with direct sales, following other standard innovative solutions like Da Vinci that follow the same model. The revenues that we expect to have by 2043 are more than 1,000 million euros after reaching market in 2035. That's a long time, and I will try to explain why. Because now we are finalizing the key development to be able to try this technology in humans. Of course, the technology that you can use in a sheep needs to be really adapted and use materials that are approved for human use. So we'll do that while we are doing the preclinical test, and then we'll finalize other developments with the aim to put the first human in our system by 2029. This makes and creates also a good exit strategy by 2030 after putting the first human, and maybe by an acquisition or by a scale-up investor. So where are we now? We are looking for a first round of 3 million euros to finalize and refine this prototype development to be able to test it in humans, to do the setup of the company, hire these profiles and bring them from the and bring them from research point of view, and also take the advantage that now the company is completely new, so we can implement a quality system from the very beginning. So thank you very much. I'm Elisenda Bonet, CEO and co-founder of fetaLife.
Any questions? Someone?
Which are the main risks that you identify in the clinic stage and also in the regulatory stage for you? Which are the main key points that help you to overcome this?
So for the regulatory stage, the main risk is that this is a massive system. It looks really simplified here, but it has a lot of components. Some of them are developed for the first time, so we'll need that each component is approved to be tested in humans, and our strategy is to start with some of the key components, and we are working with some companies that already have CE mark one of those components in another form. So we are diminishing these risks, but that's a potential risk that the regulatory takes a little bit longer than we think. For that, we are working also with an expert to start some conversations with the Spanish medical agency, so that will help that will ease the roadmap. So the clinical trial, one of the main risks that we might have is that it will need to be tested, or at least we think, and with the expert, that it will need to be tested in more than one hospital. So we are looking for 2 more hospitals in Europe. We've started conversations, and we believe that they will be able to do that. But the ethics and the risk benefit for the patients is one of the potential risks. However, we've been working with some people experts in ethics, and we are creating a framework and creating a strong case of which are the cases that are the best.
What is the cases where you could use the solution or not?
Yeah, and that's why also we put 5 years on the clinical trial, and the expert says that it could be 3 years, but we want to be safe and we want to put 5 just in case.
Another question?
Just around the clinical leap of doing this, I mean, do you not see that as a huge challenge? I mean, who's going to take the first patients and do this with them? Like, I mean, it's a lot of problem in cancer treatment where if you claim you have a better cancer treatment, and even if the old one's not that good, like, and the outcome is potentially fatal for patients, how do you decide who gets it? But in this case, the game is up at another level. Like, how are you going to decide, or is there a way that you can bring it partially into play?
So we are not going to decide it ourselves. It's, as I said, we are working with some experts, and also there's all the ethical committees that will decide who are the potential candidates. But one advantage that we have is that the co-founders, Elisenda Shark and Dr. Greta Kos as well, they are one of the pioneers of fetal surgery. They invented some of the surgeries that are happening nowadays, and they also had this dilemma. So we are working in Sant Joan de Déu, which also has a lot of expertise making these things happen. So we believe that it's a challenge, but it's not impossible because we've done it before.
Hi, thanks. I'm Rhiannon from the NHS in Wales. So just following on really in that kind of clinical acceptability, have you spoken to, in terms of your expert panels, have you spoken to the neonatal nurses and families as well in terms of this? It's just that myself and Angela work with a number of neonatal nurses, and I could already kind of feel the questions that would come from them. So I'm just wondering from your perspective, if you've spoken to the nursing team, because that's often a kind of a barrier in terms of this kind of integration into clinical service.
Yeah, for the research project and to achieve these results, we work with a team of more than 60 people, and we have more than 15 or 20 nurses working on that. And they are amazed with this, and they would really love to see it in the clinical practice. So we have nurses, at least the ones in Sant Joan de Déu, on board.
Okay, that's good news.
Yes, there was someone here.
I have a two-pronged question here. One, how are you thinking about pricing for this? And that question is also sort of informed by I don't know about the Japanese technology, but I've been watching the one in the US a bit, which is can be a pricey machine. But I also know that they put a lot of time and effort into that. And if you're looking at the US market, how are you going to be able to sort of compete with that machine? And is your IP really protected? Because again, I think it's going to be a fairly competitive battle around what you're doing, which is exciting for the babies that there are these solutions out there, and somebody's going to fight hard to win to help them. But it will be a challenge. So how are you thinking about that? Again, I think pricing is an area.
So in terms of pricing, we know that our machine, the price that we propose, it's less than a half of the American ones. So we are cheaper, but we've also done some studies with some universities who are experts in economics, and the public healthcare system from Europe in average could even have accept a machine that has the double the price that we have in our business plan. In any case, the money, it's not just coming from the machine, it comes from the consumables. So each baby will need a completely different set of artificial kind of the ECMO system, the extracorporeal system. And taking into account like the Americans and how we are going to compete, we really think that we have two concepts that we just filed the patents that are complementary to what they have. We are also sure that they might have something that's better, but we will first focus on the European regulatory, and in parallel we'll try to do the FDA, but I don't know how we'll compete there. It will depend also, it's a race. We don't want to be the first one, and we'll check, and there's market for all of us. But we believe that their machine and their price that we've heard from them, it will have some problems coming into public healthcare systems.
Good. So Professor Sally Collins with Oxailis.
Hello, thank you. I'm Sally Collins. I'm a professor of obstetrics at the University of Oxford, and I'm one of the founders of Oxailis. And I'm here with almost exactly the opposite, something that's remarkably cheap and going to be sold a lot. I'm here to convince you that our standalone software can not only reduce stillbirth worldwide, but can also improve the outcome for fetal growth restriction. So fetal growth restriction, this is the single greatest risk factor for stillbirth. And it quite often goes undetected because in order to detect it, you need to do serial growth scans later in pregnancy. Now, doing that for every single pregnant woman would be perfect. But unfortunately, we have both practical and financial constraints that mean that we just simply can't do that. So we rely on a screening test to try and see which women are at greatest risk of FGR. Now, the problem with our current screening test is it fails to detect 50% of FGR cases. And if you actually look at the stillbirths, 70% of the FGR stillbirths were in women who they had no idea that the baby had growth restriction. And when you actually get to the point of labor, the most dangerous journey you will ever take in your life, 8% of babies that are regarded as low risk, completely normal, and therefore in the UK might be delivering in a paddling pool in their front room, we don't know that they're growth restricted. And if you go into this difficult journey without your reserve, what happens is you are at massive risk of intrapartum stillbirth and at massive risk of hypoxic birth injury. And hypoxic birth injury is going to be a burden that that child carries for the entire rest of their life. If we can prevent that by knowing they're growth restricted, potentially delivering by section or monitoring them considerably more closely, we will change that child's life. On top of these dismal statistics of our current screening policy and process, 50% of the women who are told they're high risk of growth restriction and therefore get their 3 serial growth scans end up delivering completely normally grown babies, having had their pregnancy completely ruined because it was riddled with anxiety that their baby's not growing well. So what we need is a really good first trimester screening test for fetal growth restriction. Fortunately, the answer to this is already out there. The vast majority of growth restriction is due to a poorly functioning placenta. The placenta is too small, it's the wrong shape, and most importantly, it has a very poor blood supply. But these placentas already tell us at 11 weeks that they're not going to be able to nourish this baby adequately. The problem we had is that there was no way of recording both the size, the shape, and most importantly, the perfusion of this placenta using ultrasound, which is just about the only imaging modality that's acceptable in pregnancy. And it's this that we've managed to solve. So the OxNet toolkit is standalone software which can automatically analyze an ultrasound scan. It can reliably tell you the size and shape of that placenta. But most importantly, we have cracked the ability to measure perfusion reliably with ultrasound. And that's what our patent is, and that is what is completely unique about our product. No other ultrasound test is able to do this. What we have is something that can revolutionize screening for FGR and preeclampsia, but it's also able to do this in other organs. So we will be able to move out of pregnancy and into other organs very soon. So, So this is what's currently used for preeclampsia. This is the Fetal Medicine Foundation algorithm. It is freely available, it's been used worldwide, and it's been demonstrated to predict preeclampsia really well. This is produced by the FMF, which is Kypros Nikolaides' foundation in London. I've been working with Kypros for more than 10 years now because he's wanted to do exactly the same thing for fetal growth restriction. He realized years ago that the size of the placenta was really important. What he didn't have was the perfusion and the shape. We're now developing this algorithm to not only predict preeclampsia, but also predict growth restriction. And in order to do that, it will require the entry of our placental metrics. So this is where our market will develop. Now, I'm a fetal medicine doctor. I sit in a darkened room scanning people for most of my time. And I know full well nobody is going to use this unless it's easy to incorporate into their workflow. It's just not going to happen. So we've put an awful lot of time, effort, and money into working out exactly how we can use this, sitting right there in the ultrasound machine room. We have ensured that we can use DARCOM transfer. So you just press P6 and your image goes straight to the Oxailis software. Our software sits on the PC of the clinician within the room or on a server if it's within a hospital like the NHS. We've been working a lot with NHS trusts, and they have Viewpoint, which is a GE software for storing images on a central server. Ours will sit there. It analyzes the images real time. It's almost instantaneous. And it spits out the metrics. But one of the most important things about it is we have really tied it up with quality control. So if the full size of the placenta isn't captured in the sonographer's scan, or there's too many flash artifacts, or there's any problems, the software refuses to analyze it. So it won't give garbage metrics. It will only give you the appropriate metrics. And these metrics come out, they can go into the algorithm, and this will enable you there and then to tell the woman on the bed what her risk of growth restriction is and whether she needs serial growth scans. Now, in the future, this could also be whether she needs a treatment for FGR. There are amazing studies happening at the moment worldwide into FGR treatments, including basic things like nitrate rich beetroot juice, sildenafil. There's gene therapy happening at UCH. These treatments would be available, but you want to give them early because you've got to capture this placenta before it's completely formed. So she needs to start her beetroot juice at 11 weeks. And by 22 weeks, when that placenta is formed, this baby may not even have FGR. That is the future. And because of our test, we'll be able to run adequately powered studies to truly investigate this. So we've been going quite a long time. This is 17 years worth of research I'm showing you here. And we've done 2 enormous studies. So we did our first study of 4,000 women in London with Kypros, and our second study was embedded in a standard NHS ultrasound department, and it was 3,500 women. And I can tell you our results of the algorithm. The results of the algorithm shows we at least double the true positive and halve the false positive rate. And if we were to employ this in the NHS, we would prevent potentially 269 stillbirths a year and 64 hypoxic events in labour. But having taken into account buying our software, we would still save the NHS 12.6 million a year. And that makes us incredibly attractive to healthcare providers that are publicly funded. Our advisory board, we've got a fantastic advisory board. I'm running out of time. It includes Kypros, who's been a huge supporter of us. What have we delivered to date? Well, like I said, this has been 17 years. I've had more than £7 million worth of non-dilutive funding. We hold the patent worldwide for tissue perfusion with ultrasound in all organs. So we are not just targeting pregnancy, although that's our minimal viable product. We'll be moving into the kidney, the ovary, the prostate, oncology, nephrology. Our software's got demonstrable maturity, and we're currently going through CE approval process. We hope to have CE marking by the end of next year. What are we asking for? We need £1.5 million in order to get us through CA marking, FDA approval, and onto other organs. And I've run out of time, but I will finish with, we've identified a serviceable, addressable market of more than $1 billion a year. So any investment in Oxailis will not only have a massive societal impact, reducing stillbirth and improving the outcome of growth-restricted babies, but also will promise a solid financial return. Thank you.
Okay. Exactly. One question, please. Any question? No. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now we have PolyCoarct with Francesc Canalejo.
Thank you for being here and for the opportunity to present you PolyCoarct, a project that aims to put an end to a lifetime of surgeries, interventions, and disease to thousands of children born with congenital heart disease, such as aortic coarctation. Aortic coarctation is a lethal condition consisting of a narrowing in the aorta. It happens in 8% of all congenital heart disease, with an incidence of 4 per 10,000 live births. If left untreated, the average life expectancy is 35 years of age, with a 75% mortality rate by 46 years. Unfortunately, current treatments present several short and long-term complications. Surgery, which is extremely aggressive, and angioplasty improve vessel diameter, but they have reintervention rates of up to 34% of cases. Stents offer longer patency, but early complications occur in up to 42% of cases. In addition, metallic permanent stents in growing children require 4 to 5 interventions for re-expansion to accommodate the somatic growth of the child. Based on the drawbacks of current treatments, we have developed the first time ever bioresorbable stent for children. This stent is polymeric so that it can resorb after achieving arterial remodeling, thus mitigating the risk for future complications. But it is also auxeric and has shape memory, which means that it can grow simultaneously in diameter and length to accompany the somatic growth of the child without the need for intervention. Therefore, PolyCoarct's technology is poised to overcome the limitations of existing stents. Off-label metallic stents expose pediatric patients to increased morbidity throughout their lifetime. In response to the lack of pediatric-specific devices, the Minima stent was recently FDA approved as the first and only stent for pediatric indications. Yet, this cobalt chromium stent faces major drawbacks, including strong mechanical mismatch, severe foreshortening, required repeated interventions, and high costs. On the other hand, polymeric stents for adult indications initially promised to overcome these issues, yet they presented uneven degradation profiles that led to higher target lesion failure and increased risk of thrombosis. PolyCoarct fills this critical gap by offering a minimal invasive lifetime solution for children with aortic coarctation, helping save more than 100,000 euros per patient in management and treatment costs. So far, we have developed an in silico model to optimize the design of the stent and manufacture the scaffolds through a sophisticated process of polymer tubing and laser cutting. We have also performed the in vitro testing to adjust the bioresorption profile and demonstrate the good resolarization and thrombogenicity capabilities of these devices. And most importantly, we have evaluated the short-term biological response in a physiologically relevant environment. The histological analysis at 1 month post-implantation in rabbits revealed good biocompatibility of the polymeric stents, showcasing their potential for pediatric clinical translation. But our development does not stop in the lab, as we have also visited more than 25 leading pediatric hospitals in Spain and the US, in which we have interviewed more than 40 interventional cardiologists and key opinion leaders in the pediatric field. This initiative was essential for validating our proposed technology, raising awareness, and facilitating its integration into clinical practice. Now, we aim to strengthen our IP position by developing a dedicated delivery system and by implanting these devices in a growing animal model. This will be fundamental to demonstrate that our technology not only integrates within the aortic tissue, but also expands according to the somatic growth of the vessel in an animal model. This milestone will unlock a truly transformative potential for those joining us at this stage. For this reason, we want to encourage you to join us in this effort to raise 3 million euros to move from a promising technology to a consolidated spin-out with evident value in the pediatric field and a strong foundation for market success. By focusing on the growing aorta of children rather than the calcified adult vessels, we target a unique clinical setting where bioresorbable technology can deliver its greatest impact. In response to that, we propose a bottom-up strategy, starting in the high-impact, high-need pediatric field to build a strong foundation for broader market penetration. By first demonstrating the efficacy of our device for aortic coarctation and branch pulmonary artery stenosis, we aim to strategically pivot toward complementary segments within the pediatric field, with an addressable market of 350 million euros. This staged approach will position us for a natural transition into the rapidly re-emerging adult bioresorbable stents market, with a size of almost 3 billion euros. All this will be possible thanks to an extraordinary multidisciplinary team combining engineering, material science, and medicine to deliver the solution that children truly deserve. Because we all share a common belief that our kids and your kids deserve to live without fear and with medical devices inspired by children and built for children. Thank you.
Any questions? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Very interesting, very nice presentation. You mentioned that after 1 month, the implantation, you could confirm biocompatibility, right? Have you studied probably, yes, the biodegradation kinetic, because you said it was bioresorbable? And that's one question. And the other related question is if because of course, I don't know the nature of the polymer, if the biodegradation products are easily eliminated, or if you studied that, or...
Yeah, so very good point. The first one is that we have not tested in vivo, but we have in vitro through accelerated models. We have published those results, and we've got one patent that relates to the specific design of the stent that allows us to have a more controlled degradation profile. And second, we use a copolymer of PLLA and polycaprolactone. These are very commonly used polymers, and they are currently used in humans.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Another question there.
Thank you for your presentation. So I believe depending on the characteristics of the polymer, the degradation rate can be for a month or over 3 months, right? I don't know which is the degradation of your polymer, and then if the polymer degrades, how is the aortic wall gonna stand or gonna not go back again to the coarctation and don't have a risk of reintervention or redilatation? And how do you know that?
So the time it takes for the stent to start losing the integrity, so start losing the mechanical properties, is about 6 months. Then it fully degrades in 2 years, but the important time point is 6 months. And we have evidence based on balloon angioplasty, for example, in which just after providing an initial dilation of the artery and keeping the artery open for about 1 month, that's sufficient to achieve what we call arterial remodeling, which is blood flows normally, the artery starts to grow with the somatic growth of the patient, and that's enough to overcome the restenosis. Of course, you need to keep that support for at least a period of 1 month, 2 months, and this is why we keep the important degradation time point at 6 months now.
Someone else? No? Okay. So thank you, Francesc.
Thank you.
Now it's time for Popcorn Therapeutics with Iker Ausejo.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Today, I would like to share with you a dramatic unmet clinical need. You probably don't know that every day, more than 1,000 children around the world are diagnosed with cancer. Among them, central nervous system are the most common form and the principal cause of cancer-related cell death during childhood. Between this group, diffuse myeloid gliomas, or DMGs, represent the most aggressive and lethal type, accounting for up to 80% of brainstem tumors in children. Despite many years of research, the prognosis remains dramatic. The median survival is only 8 to 11 months, with less than 2% of patients surviving beyond 5 years. Radiation is a standard of care and the only available treatment in the market, but it is not curative. Targeted therapy, traditional chemotherapy, and immunotherapy designed for adult cancers have all failed to improve survival outcomes. So as you can see, the need for innovation in pediatric neuro-oncology is clear. At Popcorn Therapeutic, we are addressing this challenge with POP02, an oncolytic virus that merges direct oncolysis with a potent immunomodulating strategy. POP02 can infect, replicate, and destroy tumor cells while also producing 2 immunomodulatory molecules. On one hand, for one BB ligand, which displays a strong co-stimulation to T cells. On the other hand, a single domain antibody that blocks TIM3, a checkpoint molecule that has been described in our lab as a key driver of DMG immunosuppression. The combination of these molecules enables a sustained anti-tumor response that can avoid acute toxicity and prevent tumor recurrence. Importantly, in our DMG preclinical models, POP02 reduced tumor burden and has demonstrated a 5-fold improvement in the median survival compared to the standard of care. Beyond pediatric brain tumors, the TIM3 pathway is also implicated in adult cancer such as glioblastoma and pancreatic adenocarcinoma. We will adopt a bottom-up strategy, starting with the pediatric population and progressively expanding each application to other adult solid tumors, reaching at least a 7 billion market. Our core team integrates the oncolytic virus engineering, DMG translational biology, and clinical neuro-oncology, providing a realistic and accelerated path from the lab to the first-in-child clinical studies. We are supported by a scientific advisory board that includes leaders in neurosurgical delivery, pediatric trials, and DNG research across the USA, Australia, and Europe. So PolyCoarct Therapeutics has the necessary structure to move fast innovation into a real clinical impact. We are currently raising a 600,000 euros pre-seed round to complete preclinical validation and toxicology, finalize the regulatory and the clinical protocol, and secure a CDMO manufacturing strategy. This stage combines non-dilutive funding with some strategic pre-seed investment. And this bridge allows us to achieve complete clinical readiness between 18 months, supporting a Series A round that will finance GMP manufacturing, and the first in-child clinical entry. So POP02 is designed for the biology of DNG, grounded in a real clinical impact, real clinical translation, and positioned to become the first immunotherapy that will significantly change the survival of these children. Thank you.
Questions?
Congratulations. So you clearly identify an indication where there's no currently a treatment, but there are many approaches on development, small molecules, drug delivery systems, CAR-Ts. How you differentiate yourself among these other?
So right now, I think that our competitors are the CAR-T product. So I think that we have a better product because in the CAR-Ts, the toxicity has still been a really bad problem. In addition, the manufacturing of the CAR-T cells and the management of this product is more difficult than with the virus. And of course, the cost per patient in the virus is lower than the CAR-T cells. We are talking about 300,000 cost per patient in the CAR-T cells, and this virus costs about 20,000 per dose. So, and well, in addition, we know that in our preclinical model, the POP02 has demonstrated a much better therapeutic effect than the CAR-Ts that are in the clinical development. So to be honest, I think that we have a less toxic and a better product.
Thank you.
Can you just talk a little bit more about your clinical plan and how you're thinking about, have you talked to the regulatory bodies? Are you going to be able to go straight to children around this? Trial size, time? What does it take to get you through to having a drug approved?
So the thing is that we have experience moving this virus to the clinic in an academic, So we think that probably in 1 year, 1.5 year, we were ready with the GMP production, and probably in the first quarter of 2027 or 2028, we will be able to start with the clinical studies. I don't know if I answer your question or.
So have you talked to regulatory bodies about a clinical plan yet?
With
the FDA, have you talked to the FDA about?
Yes, we are working. We are right now working with the EMA and with the Spanish agency. So we are also talking about the ODD, the orphan drug designation. So yes, I think that we are in a good point to move this.
Will they let you go straight into children, or will you have to do adult studies first?
We will try to go first to children, but we know that sometimes the EMA say that you have to go to the first in human in adult cancer, but we hope that we can get the first in child.
For this, they should.
Good.
I'm Ronen from Schneider Children's Hospital Venture Fund. What is the delivery mechanism of this virus into the tumor?
So the delivery is an intratumoral injection directing the tumor, and this is a really safe and standard process in many hospitals around the world. Because one of the problem of these children is that the BBB is intact, so the systemic drugs have not reached the tumor. So we are going to go with an intratumoral injection.
Okay, so thank you very much. So the sixth project is Sencilia and presents Amar Kamat.
Well, good evening, everyone. Nice to be here. My name is Amar. I'm the founder and CEO of Sencilia. I'm very happy to present our venture to you. Now, what we realized after talking to a lot of doctors and nurses in the neonatal intensive care units is that when you deliver infusion therapy to babies, especially in NICUs, so we are talking about preterm infants here, these flow rates tend to be extremely slow. So it's very typical to deliver, let's say, insulin at 0.1 ml per hour, or dopamine or dobutamine at very low flows. Now, when that happens, it is very difficult, or I would say close to impossible, to really ensure that something is going into the patient. Now, what this means is, and that really happens because you have very common causes that can cause the flow to be inaccurate. Could be, let's say, an occlusion in the catheter, a blood clot that is blocking the flow into the patient. It could be a post-occlusion bolus where the pressure builds up and the patient just gets a lot of the drug at once. It could be multi-infusions and so on and so forth. Now, this can, of course, have very clinical consequences, quite serious. For example, if you imagine a patient getting a bolus of something like norepinephrine, the blood pressure in the brain can just shoot up. That can lead to severe grade intraventricular hemorrhage. That's a leading cause of cerebral palsy, for example. It can lead to long-term neurodevelopmental impairment and so on and so forth. If you are late in detecting catheter blockages, for example, that is a site where bacteria like to grow, which means that the infection risks are higher, CLABSI risks are higher. It's, again, a big problem in both in the US and in the EU. Oops. Yeah. And finally, when we talk to doctors and nurses, we just keep hearing that I'm not really sure that the drug is reaching the patient. And that's quite, in a vulnerable patient population where you want accuracy and when you want exactness, this is not really what we want to hear, right? So what we've done is very simple. We've made a sensor that is a non-contact low-flow sensor. What this means is we can just clamp on this sensor onto an IV line and we can start measuring the flow rate. What makes this technology unique and the only one in the market is that we don't need to touch the fluid, so it's completely non-contact, non-intrusive. There is no infection or contamination risk. We can measure very low flow rates all the way down to 0.1 ml per hour, which again makes us quite unique on the market. And finally, we are developing this as a reusable device, so you don't need to use it and throw it. You can keep using it, up to 1 year. We have, of course, protected this. So we have 2 patents filed. The third one is ready to go next month. And the idea being that we want to protect both the hardware and the software that goes behind it. We also have, of course, some trade secrets that relate to the machine learning algorithms that we use to ensure sensor accuracy. We see this technology being used in 2 different modes. First, we want to start with the so-called passive mode, which is a monitoring-only mode. Now, this is how we want to enter the market. This is where we will measure something, and when something goes wrong, like let's say an occlusion, we let the nurse know instantly. Once we validate this using the passive mode, we want to go to the, let's say, higher value product, which is the active mode, where the sensor actually controls the pump and ensures that the dosage is continuous and accurate, because that's, of course, what all the nurses and doctors eventually want to see. Now, I'm listing here 3 ways in which where we are with the validation. The first is we did a pilot project, a paid pilot with one of the industry leaders in the NICU vascular access space. Oh, something went wrong with the font. I don't know what. So this is just part of a demo of a prototype that we sent them. What's happening here is that we are doing an independent measurement of the flow. When the pump goes up by about 10 centimeters, you see that the flow in the line also goes up. So the patient is actually getting a bolus, but nobody really knows. And if this were working in the active mode, you would actually see a straight line. So the sensor would actually compensate for the pump. Similarly, these kinds of movements are very common in the NICU. You tend to move the incubators up and down. You tend to move pumps up and down. When the pump moves down, again, the patient gets an underdose, but nobody really knows what's happening. So of course, what's happening is if it's an inotrope, the blood pressure is going to drop. But again, the pump is saying that everything is okay. We also simulated an occlusion. So let's say we just turn the tap, which is again done quite a lot to have push medications, for example. We start to count how long does it take this Becton Dickinson pump versus how long does it take us to detect something is wrong. It takes us less than a minute because we are measuring the actual flow. Whereas in this case, the BD pump takes about 12 minutes. And that 12 minutes can easily become, let's say, an hour or two, which is what we've also measured in our labs. And that's, of course, not acceptable because most of the half-lives of these drugs tend to be 1 or 2 minutes with insulin or dopamine or norepinephrine. So, of course, you want to know as soon as possible when something is going wrong. Now, again, apologies for the font. I don't know what's going there, but we also studied the clinical effects of this in preclinical studies. So these were done on an ex vivo perfused kidney model. So we are able to actually plot the blood pressure. So when you have an occlusion and when you don't detect it in time, as in the blue line, you see the blood pressure going down, the kidney is going into hypotension. Suddenly, when you release all this pressure, the kidney just gets a lot of norepinephrine, and then you go into hypertension. And these are very high risk factors for something like intraventricular hemorrhage. But if you look at our solution, it follows the control quite well. We did 6 kidneys per group. So that was quite a nice validation for us to show that just measuring occlusions early on is also can have a good clinical impact as well. We recently also did a study with the Erasmus Medical Center, that's the NICU. We worked together with the nurses and we did a study in the simulated setting. So we have all the pumps here, all the equipment except the patient. And we were also able to show very nicely that when nurses do very simple tasks like having push medications or having incubators moving up or having kangaroo care, you get a lot of fluctuations that are not caught by the current standard of care. So what makes us unique, like I said, is we are able to do 2 things that most people can't. We are a clinically usable solution because we are a non-contact solution because nurses really don't like to break into the line and introduce additional infection risks. And we are also able to be accurate at extremely low flows. So we can measure all the way down to 0.1 ml per hour that nobody can do, in combination with being non-contact. Our beachhead market is the NICU IV monitoring. The overall market is basically all IV monitoring, but we see that the need in the NICU market is the highest because the flow rates tend to be the lowest and the patients, of course, tend to be the most vulnerable ones. Again, I don't know what's wrong with the font color, but if you can read here, the SOM is about 85 million euros per year, and that's assuming that we work together with partners and we form some kind of semi-exclusive partnership. So let's say one partner in the US, one partner in the EU, and we capture about 25% of the market. I'll hurry up because I'm running out of time. The strategy is to first certify this as a standalone device and start selling to get enough traction to then partner up with the bigger players. We are already in touch with all of them. And finally, once we reach that stage where we are on the market, we want to go to the active mode and also, of course, go to other markets such as insulin monitoring or clinical trials and so on and so forth. Now something really went wrong here. We are raising an early seed round of 1.5 million euros that will take us, help us get clinical data and also submit our 510(k) application. We've identified predicates already and it's a class 2 device. After that, we see a late seed round happening of about 3.5 million euros that will take us to the market. And exit opportunities in this case are, of course, with IV pump manufacturers like BD or B Brown, as well as sensor tech companies as well. With strategics, I already talked about our paid pilot. We are discussing a follow-up project of about 100,000 euros right now with one of these players. So that's we have a lot of traction from these guys. From NICUs, we have a lot of interest for conducting these trials. So we have identified 4 or 5 hospitals in the NICU, including the SJD. And we've raised about 2 million euros so far. A quick word about our team. We are a team of 5 full-time employees right now and 3 part-time. We have a CCO who works in the US. He used to work for ICU Medical, so he knows a lot about distributors. He has a lot of contacts, and he's already helping us reach the US nurses as well. And finally, we have a nice team of advisors who are helping us on the commercial and clinical side as well. So thanks again for your time. I would love to hear questions. Thank you.
I have seen obviously other devices in this space which support the emptying of infusion bags to make sure that, for example, all the doses being delivered, because there's this issue of dose being retained in the infusion bags almost up to 20%. So how do you anticipate working alongside synergistically with those type of devices?
Yeah, I think maybe you're mentioning the Droplet IV.
Correct,
company in Denmark. So what they're doing is more working with the gravity infusion, so like a bag. What we do is we exclusively work with syringe pumps. So those are the ones that are really low in dosage. There could be ways to partner up with them, but what we really want to focus right now is the low flow range, because that's where we really see the need, and that's where we see that it's not being serviced.
Co-founder and CEO of Vesynta. We're a precision medicine company based at the London Cancer Hub in the UK, and we exist to promote health equity for children with our patient-centric prescribing software, Dosalogic. The platform is powered by a unique marketplace that connects clinicians with validated pharmacology models to offer each child individualized dosing to maximize their chance of therapeutic success. We've started off with clinical pilots in the pediatric oncology space, and we're now raising a seed round. They'll see us become the new foundation in prescribing infrastructure. So today, actually, I'm here representing a team of technical and clinical experts in pediatric health. We're very fortunate to be advised by the likes of Professor Pamela Kearns, who is president of ITCC and a global KOL in pediatric oncology. And of course, Professor Gareth Veal, who runs the UK's only pharmacology service for pediatric oncology as well. Myself, I've spent many years working in big pharma, developing drugs, but also as a hospital pharmacist. So I understand the issue of dosing, right from how dose labels are formed to how they're actually implemented into clinical practice. And actually, it was one of my own experiences, really, that led me to co-found Vesynta. I came across an instance of identical twins, both with leukemia, and both given the same dose of chemotherapy, because the method that we use today is either body surface area-based or weight-based. And to my surprise, one child did extremely well, and the other needed further courses of treatment. And so it was a first-hand lesson to me that even where we have identical genetic dispositions, we all process a dose of medication differently and sometimes unpredictably. And this used to frustrate me, that I didn't have access to actionable pharmacological insight when making those dosing decisions, forcing me down this sort of one-size-fits-all approach in terms of how we select dose. And of course, this overlooks the significant diversity that exists amongst our pediatric population. And the impact of this actually is that nearly 50% of children in critical care are just simply not receiving the right amount of drug, either too little, resulting in non-response, or too much, resulting in toxic side effects. And when we think about the morbidity impacts, we see, for example, in cancer, we see that nearly 2/3 of survivors suffer from some kind of life-limiting side effect. And of course, this increases their risk of mortality in the long term. Fundamentally, if we don't get the dosing right, we are actually eroding the therapeutic potential of our therapeutic agents, costing the healthcare system nearly $300 billion a year, underlining the importance of being more personal, but also more smart in terms of how we select dose. Now, fortunately, we are seeing an adoption sweet spot for what we call model-informed precision dosing. So that's moving away from population averages and starting to focus on individual precision to select dosages that help you achieve your therapeutic target. And this is very much being pushed from the top down. So, for example, regulators like the FDA with their Project Optimus Act and the Right Drug Dose Now Act, there's also a huge abundance now of drugs, data, and models ready for implementation that's currently going underutilized. And of course, the right tech platforms to introduce this as within clinical workflows. And yet, despite these facilitators, we're continuing to see a stark market gap, with nearly 80% of children who are eligible for precision dosing actually having no solution for them. So at Vesynta, we sort of recognize this as a reservoir of potential, but also a sort of a time-sensitive opportunity. And we address this with Dosalogic. It's the world's first marketplace-enabled precision prescribing software that democratizes drug exposure insights and outcome predictions in real time to recommend dosages that maximize a drug's safety and effectiveness. And it combines a marketplace framework with a dosing co-pilot, not only solving the dosing problem, but also the content scaling problem simultaneously, placing us in the best position to really maximize therapeutic success. So that marketplace really is our unique edge, is a shared economy that connects drug developers, model creators, and frontline decision makers, effectively converting the pharmacology science community into our very own asset pipeline engine. And we do this by incentivizing the contribution of pharmacology models, specifically PKPD models, for those who are aware of what those are, that describe a drug population combination. And these models are then presented to the clinical users as part of a workflow integrated co-pilot with transparent metrics as to the provenance of that model, but also how those models, also interpretable dosing recommendations that they can push within their current prescribing workflows. And what this effectively creates is a virtuous cycle of network effects, one that actually creates a community moat of defensibility. And we know this works. We have over 15 drugs already validated on the platform for pediatric populations, and we've secured 2 pediatric pilots with our care provider partners as well. So let's touch on those very quickly. The first is chemotherapy dose optimization for children with cancer, obviously. We're working with the Newcastle University Centre for Cancer. The software is being piloted across 17 centres across the country. We're recommending dosages for 3 chemotherapies, and we're already showing that we get 48% more patients reaching their therapeutic targets. And of course, the value proposition here is all about trying to reduce adverse event-related care episode costs, sometimes up to $22,000 per patient. And of course, this is what's driving our SaaS opportunities with those care provider customers. The second project is interesting, more interesting for me in a way, because actually it starts to look at how we can leverage precision dosing to generate biomarkers that can actually extend dosing labels from adult populations to teenage and young adult populations. So effectively increasing access to drugs for certain populations. So here we're working with the Royal Marsden NHS Trust, and we're working with the Hemato-Oncology Unit to extend the label of a proprietary drug. And this is, of course, very advantageous for your drug developer, because of course it effectively is enhancing their therapeutic value, particularly for an asset that may be distressed from a safety or commercial standpoint, resulting in licensing conversations. So all of this means that we are actually at the right time to be raising a €2 million seed, which over the next 24 months will see us scale beyond pediatric oncology and towards infectious disease and cell and gene therapy. And we're having partnerships with Children's National over in Washington, but also Gustave Roussy for that as well. We are actually not considered a medical device in the US. So it's definitely our first market to move to from a care provider perspective. And so we'll be securing our US provider pilots with the conversations that we're currently having. And of course, we'll be securing our EU CE mark, all of which should make us the standard in prescribing decision support, not just for children, but for adults as well. And thank you all very much for listening and your patience.
Questions? One?
Yeah, also, for investors to this round, what is the exit that you are proposing to them as venture capital?
Yeah, so if I was to be honest with respect to what precedent there has been for exits in this particular space, has been quite limited. So we've been quite creative in terms of thinking about what those pathways look like. So first I'll touch on mechanism, and then I can touch on maybe who those partners may be. So fundamentally, in our projections, we've realized that actually dividend yields are, in the first instance, followed by a buyout, results in the greatest return on investment, just to say. Who that buyer would be is interesting. The conversations we're having right now with drug developers and also medtech companies, specifically precision medicine companies, is where we see the main exit route. So for example, we're having conversations with Guardant Health. They want to leverage the real world data that they're generating from their genomic tests into our platform as part of a pharmacogenomic solution, and fundamentally license our software and roll it out to their clinicians who use their very expensive tests. So that's one viable pathway of exit, but there are quite a few.
Thank you.
No one else?
So many pharma companies will have gone through a regulatory process with a fixed dose. So how does that work with you then changing the dose on a potentially regulated product?
Yeah, a great question. So the issue we're having is that the issue I've tried to raise here is that sometimes that label is too coarse. and often non-average populations don't really translate so well to that particular label. So we're approaching it very much from a post-market side of things, where we can see a systemic failure in terms of how that dose translates for that particular patient group. We generate the evidence with the model on the platform, and then we push for a change in clinical guideline. Fundamentally, dosing pediatrics, most of it occurs off-label anyway. But I think what the goal is to try and change the TPP and the label itself. And that obviously requires a reopening of a trial. But fundamentally, if the evidence in the model is there, the trial efficiency is there as well. And so the pharma is actually going to be more inclined to do so, not to mention the additional market exclusivity they could get from a more refined dose label.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, we'll follow with the closing. Arnau.
Okay, so we get to a closing of the presentations of the event. And before that, I would like to just say three things. First, congratulations to the amazing project that have been presented today. And thank you for fostering a future with new solutions and more solutions for pediatrics, dedicating your life to that. So I would ask all of you a round of applause for them, because I think it's amazing the work they're doing. The second thing I wanted to say is thank you all. We are today here people from 11 different nationalities, some of which have come from abroad, taking flights to get here in Barcelona. So I would like to thank you all for making the effort and being here with us today. Thank you very much. I just forgot to say that we received 43 different amazing companies, all in pediatrics, and we could only select 7. So I think it's amazing, and congratulations for the work that you've done, because just being presenting already makes you an advantage. So again, thank you for that. And then last but not least, a little exercise before going up to the networking and the nice views and fresh air of Barcelona. Can you put your hands up, the investors in the room? Okay, good, amazing, thank you. Can you put up your hands, the startups in the room? Yeah, it goes 1 investor per each startup, more or less, eh? So that's good. And then last but not least, the hospitals in the room. Okay, so we have 1 hospital for 1 startup and 1 investor. I think that should work. So thank you very much. With that, we will close. And remember that if you want to know if you are in a startup or the person you are talking to is an investor or a hospital, purple is investors, startups it's blue, and the rest are in red, or the organizers in light blue. We go up to the terrace, and thank you all for being here on behalf of MedAngels and Montana. Thank you very much.